Hey y'all, this is Genevieve Allen, and you are listening to the Garrett Smith Podcast.
Genevieve, welcome to the show. What have you been up to lately with the whole quarantine and that whole ritual? I feel like that question's getting redundant for every guest I have on here.
Yeah, at this point, I'm sure it is. But, it was kind of perfect timing for pushing a single. It kept me from losing my mind completely, just partially. But,
Just partially.
It's the end of breeding season. My family, we raise and train horses, so I've been able to really devote a whole lot of time to the horses, which has been nice, because I'm kind of torn between two lovers when it comes down to what I do for a living and what I do. I've got two full-time jobs, being a musician, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then a full-time cowgirl, and so it's been nice in a way that I've just been able to focus 100% pretty much on the horses, which has been great. And then pushing the single, which I've lost track of how many radio stations I've called and talked to.
It is a painstaking process.
Oh, it is. And what was really funny is I looked down and I saw that I had a missed call from Amarillo, and I had called an Amarillo station earlier. And I looked down and I thought, I called the station. Why would they have called my cell phone twice?
That's funny. Yeah, because I totally forgot to warn you. And
then it dawned on me. I was like, oh my gosh.
All the places I've lived since I grew up, because I grew up in Canyon, right outside of Amarillo. And, from Belton and Temple down to College Station, down to Houston, back to this area, just kept the same number. And so people always kind of look at me funny if they're not sure. And it's like, where is that? It's like it's a secret.
Yeah.
Or they think I'm from Lubbock.
Well, yeah, there's that.
So yeah, you're pushing the new single out, and I love that this is the one you picked, because not long ago we were actually talking about this off the air, how I actually have that song on one of my frequent rotating playlists, and I'm like, this song sounds like Florida Man meets Tombstone with a shootout. I mean, it's pretty much got all you need for a good country western song. So yeah, kind of tell us the backstory on that.
The backstory is how it got written, or the backstory of the story?
How about both?
Okay. Well, so I was at a songwriter's retreat at Drew Fish's secret place in East Texas, which I guess is what it's being known as now. It's not so secret, but it was a songwriter's weekend. There was a bunch of us, and it was like almost like one of those things where you see like the dating games where like every 30 minutes they stand up and they switch and they sit down at another table.
Oh, wow.
And so it wasn't quite time like that, but everybody, we were at this, it had a huge like living room and bunches of different, like sunrooms and patios, and you just kind of vibe with somebody and be like, hey, let's start a song. And so we'd all kind of paired off doing that. And finally I was like, okay, Drew, I want to write something with you. And he had never written with a female artist before. So I think he was expecting more of I didn't know that at the time. I think he was expecting more of like a Louisville Slugger, man-hating, bashing song. And he's like, what do you want to write? And I was like, I'm feeling something like Western, like spaghetti Western. And he's like, okay. And he goes, well, do you have an idea? And I think I had a hook about 6 foot below or 6 foot under, something. It wasn't 6 foot in the ground, but it was like you could tell that's where that came from.
Yeah.
But I had this idea in my mind, and he was like, okay, well, let's just kind of start brainstorming on this. And I think I had wanted to put like an outlaw in it or something, and we ended up, everybody's walking past us, and we both have our cell phones pulled up, and we're just like Googling Old West stories. And it's actually a true story. We did not really deviate from it. There was, in the 1880s, there was a woman named Dora Hand, and apparently she was gorgeous saloon girl. Her boyfriend was the saloon owner. And this dude rides into town, and he instantly just took a liking to her. And he had this really genius idea that if he shot her boyfriend, that her feelings would transfer to him. I'm pretty sure there's, like a diagnostic label for that mental instability, but crazy is just, the fastest way to get there. But so he does that. He plans this out. And the second part of his bright idea was he was going to shoot through the door into their bedroom. I kid you not.
What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? So he does this at like 3 or 4 a.m. and he shoots through the door and it hits her and kills her instead. So he makes a run for it. He gets his horse. He loads up. He splits and he gets run down by Doc Holliday, Wyatt Earp, and I believe Bat Masterson was the third.
Not exactly who you want to get run down by.
No. And they take him back, and I think he got hung for murder. And we were like, this is great. It's a love song. It's a country love song. It's just set in the 1880s, but I mean, it's love gone wrong on so many different levels. Like, this is going to make a perfect song. And it was a blast to write. And I don't think it took us more than probably an hour. I don't remember, but we didn't spend that long. I mean, it just kind of wrote itself because, I mean, we have the story, so hey, let's just get it, lined out.
That's incredible.
And say what?
So that's incredible because, I mean, it's a good song and it's well thought out. So I mean, to write it in that short amount of time is pretty impressive.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, Drew's obviously a very good writer. I think isn't his song at like 7 now? On the charts?
It's getting up there. I mean, every time he posts, it's like it's climbing the ladder more.
Yeah, yes, that's awesome. And, no one knows this. You're about to know a secret.
Exclusive.
I had, released Damn This Rodeo, which is the title track off of the album. And I had wanted to release another, but I had kind of thought, okay, well, I did the self-promotion thing. It was good. I was considering getting a promoter, and then Corona hit. Yeah. And for starving artists to suddenly be without work for what we're going on 3.5 months now.
Yeah.
I was like,
feels like 7.
I was supposed to go into the studio and record first in February, then in March, then in April. And so now it's just we're kind of waiting until things can get back on the road before I can get in the studio. And I wasn't going to release anything. And I had actually had an interview with Friendly, Friendly out of Greenville.
I don't actually.
Okay, super, super sweet guy. But he has Friendly Radio. And he always says, keep it in your boot. And he's kind of an old cowboy type. And I think I'd asked if I could do a Facebook takeover or whatever he had offered. So we did that. And he said, I want a kick butt song. Send me a kick butt song that you have. And I was like, okay. Sure, I'll send him Boothill. And he said, I thought he just, wanted to hear something. He goes, I started spinning it, and I was like, and that is my new single, ladies and gentlemen. And I mean, it was just like, it fit perfectly because he said, I love it. This could make it on the charts. And I was like, it could? And it just was kind of like this almost like accidental backhanded way. And so I released it to CD Text, and it was like the top 3 downloads.
Wow.
And then top 4 downloads. It had 2 weeks on it, and for it being that high. And for the Texas country music charts, the first week out, it was 96. So I couldn't believe the response that it had. And, I've had multiple interviews with different radio stations in Texas, and actually, Texas, one in the Netherlands.
Whoa.
I have one in an Australian radio station this next Monday, and it was so backwards and upside down how Boothill came to being pushed, but the response has been crazy.
It's almost like it's like one of those happy accidents.
Exactly. And, I started thinking about it, if I'm a DJ and I'm stuck at home, I want to hear something new. Give me something different. Give me something I haven't heard.
Yeah.
And Boothill is a very unusual female song. I think there's not a lot of girls. There's not a lot of females that do ballads. And if they do ballads, it's going to be like a slow ballad, like Poncho and Lefty.
Right.
And it's a story, but it's like this upbeat, perky, hey, we're so happy that everyone's dying and getting shot. Here's the story. Aren't we having fun?
Well, I think it also helps you too, because like I tell people there's Texas country, there's country, all this kind of stuff. You don't hear much country western, and Boothill definitely has that vibe to it.
Exactly. And I'm trying to remember who I had the interview with. It may have been, I think it was out in Hill Country, but they said it's the western. It's the western part of country and western. C&W used to be a big thing, and then the western just died out. And then when I went into the studio, I had Steve Henson play steel guitar on it, which was an honor to have him just be in the same room. But I walked in and I was like, okay, so this next song that we're cutting is Boothill. I want it to have like a gritty, haunting, think spaghetti western. And he sits down and he goes, something like this. And he played like the signature lick in it. And I went, I'm going to be back in the sound room. Y'all don't need me. You've got that. And it was just crazy how it was so organic. It wrote itself. And then once the guys got in the studio set down, it was done. Like it just made itself. That's awesome. I mean, from the get go, it's been a really cool song. I didn't really picture it as this dark horse single that I'd be pushing, but it's incredible. And it's incredible timing because I'm not on the road doing shows. I literally have the time to sit and call 200 radio stations.
And we will listen to that now. This is the new single, Boothill.
Down at the Alhambra on a dark October night, whiskey on his breath, another man's woman on his mind. Laid a nickel on the bar, made his way across the room, but her jealous lover wouldn't let him make his move. Hell-bent for leather, living by the gun, never know what days your last till that moment comes. Them brass and wasted dreams will always take you down. You'll find yourself in Boothill, 6 foot in the ground. Aiming actions at her heart, he'd take her lover down. Pulled together the cash he had to get the fastest horse in town. Around 4 a.m. things didn't go as planned, but she took the bullet that he'd intended for her man. Hell-bent for leather, living by the gun, you never know what days your last till that moment comes. Spent brass and wasted dreams will always take you down. You'll find yourself in Boothill, 6 foot in the ground. Headed straight for Tombstone, hoping to get off free. Never did he dream that he would ride into those 3. Quick as summer lightning, he was laying in the dirt, staring straight into the colt that was held by Wyatt Earp. Hell-bent for leather, living by the gun, you never know what days your last till that moment comes. Spent brass and wasted dreams, they'll always take you down. You'll find yourself in Boothill, 6 foot in the ground. Spent brass and wasted dreams will always take you down. You'll find yourself in Boothill, 6 foot in the ground.
you and I both, we work full time and do the whole musician thing, and it takes a lot of energy and just mental willpower to do that. And it's almost like this feeling of I can catch up with folks when none of us are on the road. I mean, that's awful, but at the same time, it's like there's kind of an advantage to this whole thing.
Agreed. I agree 100%. And you're right. It does take. It's so easy to be like, I don't feel like making a phone call right now, because I can't tell you how many people I called and go, hey, this is Genevieve Allen. Y'all spun my single, Damn This Rodeo, and Ride That Train, and I have a new one. Would you like to hear it? And you have to like will yourself to be perky to sound like you're really energized about this. And, after about the 15th one, you think, hey, I just want to get you my new song.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear it? And so, it's really cool. But at the same time, like you're saying, it's catch up. And the DJs, granted, I think DJs are all like introverts, like most musicians, because they talk, but they're in a box by themselves.
Yeah.
But they all seem like so hungry to. I had a 12-minute conversation with a DJ earlier.
Oh, wow.
Just because he wanted to have a conversation. And so it's kind of cool being that, doing the self-promotion thing, especially at this point.
Well, I think it's going to be an interesting effect, too, to see what happens when the floodgates open and everyone's back out on the road and touring again, what the social interaction looks like among artists. I mean, I got to wonder how long it'll be before we're kind of complaining about, oh, there's 5 people at the show, versus, hey, you know what? There's 5 of you, and that is 5 more than any of us were able to play for a few months ago.
Agreed.
But yeah, it's kind of like those happy accidents. I think it was Kiss back in the 70s or 80s, and I could be totally wrong, and I hope not, because their fans are easily angered. But I think they were the ones that, in the song Beth, it's really slow, and it's a ballad, and it's not like what they normally played. And that was supposed to be on the B side of what they sent out to radio. And I don't remember what song was the one they intended to use, but somebody got it wrong. They flipped it. They played Beth instead of the hard song. And now that's one of their biggest hits. It's just kind of, you never really know what's going to happen.
Oh, absolutely. It's crazy how that works.
I think Vanilla Ice, of all people, I think that happened. I think Ice Ice Baby was actually his backup song, and it got played on accident.
Wow.
And I'm like, I didn't think he had other songs, so I don't know what was on the other thing.
Yeah, did they do anything besides that one?
He has, I don't know, I think he's like top 20 popular songs on iTunes or whatever, like remixes of that. So he had a few others, I just don't know what they were.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't say that. He tours with like Kevin Fowler and people now. It's so weird.
That's crazy.
I usually do this part at the beginning of the episodes where I just kind of introduce how I discovered the artist or how I've met the artist I'm interviewing. But you were talking about when Damn This Rodeo came out. And I'd been following you on social media and YouTube and all that kind of stuff for a while. But it was your release party in Houston was the first time I got to go see one of your shows.
Yeah.
So just to kind of give listeners, the background on this, I went. And the funny part about this is about a week before, so I had a gig, and I played a cover of AC/DC, and I just did like an acoustic version of You Shook Me All Night Long. And I was like, I don't know, can I really put this in a country set or can I not? And I went, and you played it that night, completely rocked it, and I was like, well, now I can't play it just because I'll never do as well as that. I mean, it was really cool. But no, like the whole EP, it was really, really good. Like a lot of it has that same vibe as Boothill. And so I've pushed it to people for the thing we were talking about earlier. I was like, it's country western. I mean, there's a lot of sound that we don't get as much that we should still get, and it's right there. So I think it feels new, even though it's hard to believe it came out 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah, it's been 2 years.
2 years, yeah. It's one of those that still feels fresh and new, I feel like.
Well, thank you. I agree. Backstory on me, I never intended to be a musician. Okay, small unknown fact.
Same.
I played piano my entire life. I loved it. I played classical piano. I competed all across the state of Texas. I played the concertos where there's 2 pianos, and I did well with it. I'm a much better pianist than I am a guitarist. But it was a competition. I never really did it for, I guess, entertainment, so to speak. And I guess I was 18, and I just got this strange hankering. I wanted to learn to play guitar. So I go to this guitar shop in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, and for $100, I bought my first guitar.
Nice.
Yes. I tried to play it for 3 days, and then I hung it in the back of my closet for the next year because I wanted it to be 88 keys. I wanted it to be so much harder than playing a chord and strumming. I wanted it to be complex. I studied piano in college. I majored in music. So this was music theory and complexity. That's what I wanted, not country music. And I don't mean that in any sort of disparaging way, but I wanted it to be so much more difficult.
Yeah.
Well, I pull it back out, and I just, between like grit and determination, I was like, okay, if drunk people at bars can do this, I can do this. And I started getting a liking for it. And then, I was never the public singer. I never did karaoke. I never hated anyone to hear me sing in public. The only people that heard me sing were the horses in the barn when I cleaned stalls. They're not too critical. If you hit a bad note, they don't get mad at you or say, hey, I'm never coming back to this bar, or I'm never hiring you again. So somebody had heard me sing for the Christmas carols. We'd gone and done Christmas caroling for like the elderly and the shut-ins. And that's not really a big deal because you're in a group and you're all singing Oh Holy Night.
Yeah.
Well, I get this call that said, we're doing this benefit for this 6-year-old little girl that has cancer. We wanted to know if you would sing a song. Okay, guilt trip number one.
Yeah, you can't exactly say no to that.
The biggest guilt trip of all time.
Yeah.
I could not say no. So I was terrified, and I got up. I was staying on a flatbed trailer at this, it's in this park, whatever. And I had the best time. It was so much fun. I had a band behind me, and I got off the trailer, and I told my mom, I said, I loved that. I want to do that again. And before I knew it, I had a little local band, and then I played in Nashville for Tootsie's and Honky Tonk Central for 2.5 years. I released, I dropped out of college, and I released my first album, Whiskey Kisses. To be fair, I will say this. I dropped out of college, and I was on the president's list.
There you go.
I had kept my grades up. I just didn't go back the next semester.
I think more great musicians did drop out than finished.
I agree. And the thing was, because I was working downtown, I was pulling like double shifts too. So I would do my college Monday through Friday. I would play Thursday night in Nashville. I would die Friday morning in class. And then I would play Friday night, and then I would play 2 shifts on Saturday and 2 shifts on Sunday and come back and go to class. So I basically just never slept.
Where were you at school? Just out of curiosity.
Martin Methodist University.
Okay.
It's a small little campus, about an hour south of Nashville, and it's an all Steinway campus. They've got a really good music department. Huh. So it's a very small college, but
I thought that meant Martin, Tennessee for a second. I'm like, how did you drive all the way? From Martin to Nashville.
No. And so I released Whiskey Kisses. I didn't know anything. This was my first attempt at writing music. This was my first attempt at any of this, all of this. And an older songwriter, Worley McKinney, who wrote for Mo Bandy, Conway Twitty, he had taken me under his wing as helped me writing, and then he co-produced it with me because I said, I don't know what I'm doing. He goes, okay, I'll come in the studio. We'll walk through this process. And looking back, I'm super proud of it. There's a lot that could be better, but I didn't know what I was doing. But at the same time, you could see the emergence of a style of what I wanted. It sounds very Nashville because I didn't know any better. And for those of you listening, it was a long time ago. I guess it was almost 7 years ago. So this was before I'd really knew that there was a real Texas country scene and how different it was from Nashville. It was also the beginning of the loop, the drum loops.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It was the beginning of the end of country music. I mean, it had held on until about my first year of college, and then it just was like, oh, we're done. We're out.
It's kind of a gray area for a lot of people on where it went downhill and where it quote unquote ended. But I think most people can agree that there's a certain point where you can listen to everything that came out in a year and be like, yeah, it was dead by then.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I had still, when I'm playing downtown, it was a mix, and it was turning over. It was mostly becoming the modern mainstream, but there was still a few clinging to it.
Yeah.
And so I released that, and then I got signed to a record label. And for those that are with record labels and it's working, that's awesome. That's great. It wasn't for me. Because they had a very preconceived idea of who Genevieve Allen was as a cowgirl. And I'm going, okay, no, you're from Nashville. You don't know what a cowgirl is.
Yeah.
You don't. When I have to tell you that it's Ledoux and not Leduc, we have a problem.
Please tell me you didn't have to explain that to people.
I have.
Oh,
yes.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I try to retain hope in humanity, and then I hear stuff like that.
Oh, no. I played a show in Nashville. I said, this next one is Chris Ledoux, and I promise you, swear to God, this guy goes, who's he?
No.
And I froze. And I said, well, just I can't explain it. Just listen to the song. And, it said the tears of pain are rolling down my face. But it was a good learning experience to be with the label. And then, of course, I released Rob That Train. And fortunately, I had co-written that with another Texas artist. So there was still a bit of you could still hear the spaghetti Western vibe is very noticeable in Rob That Train.
Yeah.
And then, when I released Damn This Rodeo, I separated from the label, and Damn This Rodeo, people ask me, why did you pick this as your first release? Because it's not real commercial, honestly. And I said, I have just been with the label. I'm out. I want everyone to know my identity. And nothing says my identity more than this song. This is like Hooked on an 8-Second Ride. This is me. This is, I'm a cowgirl. This is gritty. I'm not trying to beat up somebody's truck and break in the lights or throw beer cans. This is who I am. And when you hear the 6 songs that are on that EP, every single one is different, but they all sound like me.
Yeah.
And that was when I sat back at the finished product, I said, this is Genevieve Allen. These are all 6 different shades and flavors of who I am as an artist. And that's probably the thing that I'm the most proud of with that album, is that I didn't sell myself short on any of it. I didn't say, hey, that's not commercial enough. I said, no, this is a song that I wrote it. It's from my heart. It's going on here.
That's pretty cool. I think something you said a second ago describes your releases perfectly. They're all different, and yet they all kind of have the same vibe to them. Like, you can definitely tell it's from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we could play one of those here on the podcast, which one would you pick?
I'll tell you what. Why don't you play? It's another true story, and it's so different from Boothill. Play Drinking Dress. It's about my grandmother.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, we'll play that one here.
She dropped the needle on the vinyl as Sinatra takes her back to that day when she swapped out fellas with her best friend on double date. Little did she know her life would change. Little did she know she'd never be the same. She's got that drinking dress, the one that's tiny and red, the one he said went perfect with her Sunday pearls. She's got those dancing shoes, the ones for forgetting the blues, the ones he bought her when he told her she'd always be his girl. She pours another glass of Chivas, swallows the memories down. I'll be seeing you has never had such a lonesome sound. She remembers the day the telephone rang, when they said her husband wasn't coming home again. She's got that drinking dress, the one that's tiny and red, the one he said went perfect with her Sunday pearls. She's got those dancing shoes, the ones where we're getting the blues, the ones he bought her when he told her she'd always be his girl. Now she's dancing with the ghost of the one she loves the most, as 13 shots still echo in her ears. Oh, 'cause all she's had to hold is a flag and many folds and empty sheets for all those empty years. She's got that drinking dress, the one that's tiny and red, the one he said went perfect with her Sunday pearls. She's got those dancing shoes, the ones for forgetting the blues, the ones he bought her when he told her she'd always be his girl.
So what's the backstory behind that song?
The backstory behind Drinking Dress is my grandmother met the love of her life on a double date, and he was with the other girl. And she was married multiple times, and she just managed to keep outliving them. But this was the love of her life. She'd been married before, and she was married after, and she loved him, but this man was the love of her life. And at the end of the evening, as their date, she was talking to him, and her female friend was talking to the other dude, and they eloped that night.
Wow.
And that was literally just like head over heels. She worshipped him, and he was in the military, and he was in the Navy, and he served during World War II, and he came back. So he didn't actually die in combat, as it is kind of sounds in the song. That was a little bit of poetic license, but the line when it says, when the telephone rang, she knew her husband wasn't coming home again, and he died shortly after, but died in a freak logging accident. A log fell on him and killed him. And I think my aunt or whatever was with her, and the phone rang, and she said, he's not coming home. And she knew it before she picked up the phone. And when she picked up the phone, they said, your husband's been killed. So it was just one of those, I was like, that line needs to be in there, that she knew, her husband wasn't coming back. And so it was a lot of fun to write that. And it also pulled me out of my shell with the piano, because all the pianos and keys that you hear on the entire EP is me playing it in the studio. And I had the idea for doing the music box sound effect at the end, because I could just picture it in my head of, how the music boxes always are like old fashioned and almost kind of like bittersweet, haunting. And it's just this picture of this woman that you know, like in the bridge when it talks about all she's had to hold is the flag of many folds, the war widows, they have nothing to cling to except for that memory. And so that was the feeling that I wanted to put in this song. And it was so much fun. I was terrified to play keys on the same track that Steve Henson played steel guitar, but I lived to tell the tale.
That's incredible. And it's also, I mean, it's heavy to play a song like that has so many real life ties to it, especially with family. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
It was awesome. And it I will say this, it made all of my family on that side cry when they heard it.
Yeah.
Yes!
I mean,
I got it.
I'm sitting here with my jaw on the ground like, wow. You know, it's not only do your songs have good backstories, but the two we've played on this podcast would both make for great music videos.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Well, of all, like, what other songs would you say have great backstories to them?
Off of this EP or any that I've written?
Any that you've written. Because I would also tell people to go check out Rob That Train, because it's also great.
Thank you. And my first album is also on iTunes. It's called Whiskey Kisses. There's actually 2 on that one. Well, there's 3 on that one that have hilarious backstories. Whiskey Kisses was at the time, that's the title track. I don't think it's the first one on the album, but at the time I was in Nashville. I was single, and you know, this guy that was the band leader, male singer, I was a backup singer, and I noticed that he was all about me when he was drinking. Now, if he was stone cold sober, he didn't notice I existed. And just, you know, P.S., not at all affected by this. This was not a heartbreak. But I had noticed, I was like, okay, he's drinking and he likes me tonight. That's cool. And I took it and I was like, oh, wow, that's... Because it's true. Once you start looking around at people, there's like, okay, well, they're attractive, or I'm attracted to them when I'm drinking, or, you know, he only comes around when he's drinking. I was like, that's the song. Well, Whiskey Kisses. That's because, you know, when Sober You shows up, all I'm left with is Whiskey Kisses. That's the line in it. So there's funny backstory on that one. Second one, She's Thinking About Cheating Again is a waltz that I put on there, and there was a lady in our community that had jumped the fence, shall we say. And I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm a cowgirl. And I was sitting in the kitchen, working on a song. I think she was baking a cake, of all things. And so she's cooking, and, you know, I'm listening to her, and she says, well, I guess she's thinking about cheating again. And I froze, and then I started like very furiously writing on this piece of paper, and I kind of was strumming, and, you know, she's continuing to talk, and I'm doing the, yes ma'am. Mm-hmm. Yes ma'am. I don't know what she talked about for that 15 minutes. And 15 minutes, I kid you not, I said, I got it. And she goes, you got what? And I said, I wrote a song while you were talking. And she goes, did you hear a word I said? No, ma'am, but I wrote a song. And so that's how that one came to be. And then the last one was El Campo. It's the last track on the album. And the reason it even got written was because I had 13 tracks, and I felt that was horribly unlucky. I was like, I either have to cut one or add one. And I didn't want to get rid of any. And I said, okay, well, in order for it to be a perfect country and western album, it's got to talk about trains, trucks, mama, prison. Prison! I've got to get prison in there. It's like, okay, I'm going to write a prison song. Got to write one. And I wrote it as a joke. I literally was like, I've got to write a prison song. This is going to be so funny. Where would I put a prison if I could put one? And I'm sure you've been through El Campo, hottest, flattest place on God's green earth at Christmas time in the shade.
Yep.
I was like, I'm going to put a prison there. And then I'm going to make it a ghost prison. I'm just literally, I'm having fun. I'm just goofing off. I'm like, this is going to be the dumbest song ever. It became my favorite track. And when people ask, they're like, where did I? It's a joke. It's a joke song. Literally, I wrote it just as a filler song, I was making fun of myself. I was like, gotta make a prison song. Chicks don't write prison songs.
That's
so
awesome.
Those are my funny backstories.
And somebody is going to be driving through Ocampo at some point and being like, man, I wonder where that jail is. Like, let's find it. Go on a wild goose chase.
Right.
If they're listening, yeah, it is there. Keep looking. So
yeah, please.
I had written in my notes a song that I was going to play here, but having just heard those backstories, I'm going to let you pick whichever one we play here, because I feel like now that we know backstories on these, there's a lot of potential. Which one should we add here?
You know what? Let's throw in the prison song.
Okay, awesome. We will play El Campo.
Working all day in the burning sun. Ain't stopping till the day is done. All in a line, digging in that ground. Gonna do it again when the sun comes around. These men are all here for one reason or another. One hand always washes another. What they lost in these cotton fields is their souls, watching their dreams run dry in El Campo. Oh, El Campo took my soul. Oh, El Campo took my soul. Don't swing low, sweet chariot, 'cause El Campo took my soul. Every single one of them wants to run, living their lives at the end of a gun. Held by hand, the man who wants them dead, on the back of a 16-hand-tall thoroughbred. One man stole, another man lied, another man watched his brother die. He planned it all so perfectly. Now he ain't dead, but he might as well be singing. Oh, El Campo took my soul. Oh, El Campo took my soul. Don't swing low, sweet chariot, 'cause El Campo took my soul. You won't see these men in chains, 'cause it happened back in 1878. Working off time for eternity. Their bones in the ground, but their souls ain't free. Whoa, El Campo took my soul. Whoa, El Campo took my soul. Don't swing low, sweet chariot, 'cause El Campo took my soul. Whoa, El Campo took my soul. Whoa,
All right, so outside of music, you've taken part in a lot of other endeavors. Horses, like you mentioned earlier. I believe you've done some modeling, and you've done a lot of stuff with the rodeo scene, and you've gone out to Wyoming a bit and some of those western states. So kind of tell me about some of that. You know, what keeps you putting all these irons in the fire?
They're all so intermeshed and interconnected, and it's sort of it's been a domino effect, honestly. I did try some modeling. They told me that I was vertically challenged, and I quote,
"Wow, are you allowed to say that?" You know, like
apparently you're allowed to say that someone is vertically challenged.
Wow.
And for those of y'all that have not seen me in real life, I am 5'4" on a good day. I am not a tall girl, not really made for modeling. I gave it my best shot, but apparently, you know, modeling for Middle Earth and the Hobbits was out. So the modeling that I do now is brand reps for my sponsors, and that works out great. I'm not on a runway. But the modeling with that truly has just been, you know, one thing leading to another. I'll meet somebody else, and Mario Flores introduced me to, he said, "Hey, I think you need to talk to Rope Smart."
Oh,
and
wow.
Rope Smart, I messaged him and talked to him, and then picked my jaw up off the floor. They said they wanted me to come in and do a photo shoot, model for some of their new clothing. So I did that. And then I went out to Vegas, and their entire booth was wrapped across the top with me and all the different shirts.
No way. That's
and
awesome.
And ball caps and hoodies. And I walked up, and I'm going, "That's me. That is me. Okay, cool. All right then." And so it's truly just kind of been one thing after another with modeling. The Armed Forces Rodeo, that was because they had asked me to sing the national anthem at the Bull Riding Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I don't know how I originally got hooked up with them. And the photographer said, "Hey, there's a military rodeo. Would you come sing the national anthem there?" And that turned into me being the national spokesperson for them. And then I became an ambassador for Charlie 5, who saw me related to the military stuff. And he does military, puts Mustangs in the hands of veterans. And I mean, it's just this like rabbit trail that just, I can't tell you how it all connects, but one thing just led to another. So I'm not even trying to put irons in the fire. They just keep jumping in.
Well, you've pieced everything together pretty well. The way you've made one opportunity lead to the next is pretty impressive.
Well, thank you.
You've traveled a lot. You know, we've talked about Tennessee, we've talked about Texas, we've talked about other states. What are some of your favorite venues and towns to perform?
Okay. I absolutely love Kansas.
Really?
Kansas is, for those of y'all that have not made it to that state, the best way I can describe it is Texas and Wyoming are sisters. Texas and Kansas is like the cool cousin at the family get-together that you can't wait to hang out with. They're not you. They're not exactly the same, but they're just... Kansas, they love live music. They love to dance. They love all things cowboy and western and country music. They love red dirt music. They just eat up anything. You say red dirt, they all scream.
Huh.
And so there's a place out in Ulysses, Kansas, and it's called the Outlaw Saloon. Love that place. I've played all over different places in Wyoming, South Dakota, some places that are okay. The Oregon Trail Saloon, which is actually the OT Saloon, is actually in Gearing, Nebraska. It's a super cool. I mean, these guys, seriously, it's just like Lonesome Dove. These guys will walk in, they'll be like, "We hadn't been off the ranch in a month. This is our one trip to town, so we decided to come party tonight."
Wow.
And they've got on hats like Gus McRae. I kid you not. I felt like Texas was pretty cowboy and pretty tough until I started seeing, they're like, "Well, we haven't left the ranch in a month." I'm like, we can't go 3 days without a Whataburger stop.
Right.
We're physically incapable of, "Oh man, I haven't had a Whataburger in 3 days. I gotta go."
I know some of those desolate areas too. I remember a road trip in high school. So for anyone who doesn't know the geography of where we're talking about, growing up just south of Amarillo, our high school competition district had a high school in Perryton, Texas, which is on the top right corner of the Panhandle. So basically, you could throw a rock at Oklahoma, but it was on the Oklahoma-Texas Panhandle border. So really, Kansas was not that much farther. And there were a couple road trips we took up past that direction. And I remember a game we played one summer where it was whoever can see the first thing that's not grass gets 5 points. And we probably went for about 30 minutes before some guy yelled out, "Hey, there's an old barn out there," and he won.
Oh, absolutely. That is how it's like out there. Let's see. I'm trying to work my way through a list of venues. Playing the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, the barbecue cook-off, the tents are absolutely Tent City. It's absolutely amazing. Gosh, I think those would probably be the favorite venues that I have played. I used to love Cypress Saloon, of course. They shut that down. I love that place.
Where was that one?
In Cypress, right north of Houston.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, awesome place. So those are probably my favorite venues.
If you can get in those places in Houston, that's good, because it's kind of a tough nut to crack down there. I mean, even places like Goodnight Charlie's are kind of hard to get in, and they're good venues, but there's a lot of times when bigger artists will come into Houston and it's kind of slim pickings, because Houston is, within those city limits, it's a big time, metal and rap scene. It's not as country, and kind of have to drive out of Houston for that. And
agreed.
It's helped me tremendously to move to Temple, because it's like, okay, I'm within the vicinity. The same driving distance here in Central Texas would take me the same distance to just get across Houston. So it really helps.
Agreed. Absolutely.
But once you get one of those venues, I mean, it's a pretty good crowd. Like Redneck Country Club down in Stafford, I loved shows down there. And
absolutely.
And of course, you're up in the DFW area now. I mean, what's it been like? What's it like up there as opposed to Houston for the country scene?
It's way different. It's way different. Probably the best way I could describe it is Houston has some people that are still clinging to Bud and Sissy, and there are people in Dallas that are still clinging to J.R. Ewing. Two totally different. I mean, you've got oil field trash, and then you've got oil barons.
Yeah.
So Dallas definitely is not as much into the two-stepping dance hall scene. There are quite a few venues for, I guess you'd say, like Americana, acoustic, and then they definitely want the country, but it's not as much the dance hall in my experience as I've found. And that would be my biggest comparison, would be those two.
That's a really interesting way to put it. I've heard kind of that comparison, but never with those characters mentioned. But I think that's a perfect way to mention it. Kind of Oilers versus Cowboys, but in real life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are some of the things we can expect next? Because obviously you've got your single out, you're getting all that out there, and
I've got a couple of things that I'm going into the studio and recording again.
Awesome.
Soon. I also have a music video on the horizon. There's going to be new merch, and it's going to be hitting it hard and heavy as soon as things kind of get back into the full swing. Because it's at this point, they're only doing. Governor Abbott said that as of Friday, bars will be up to 50%, but that's still not.
You're still cutting in half.
You're still cutting in half. So when things pick up and life normalizes, there's going to be a big rush and flood of some new stuff coming out.
That's awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing that. It's kind of interesting how that all plays out too, because whenever we were getting into the spring, I was finally lining up some full band shows here in the area. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And then I had a month of no shows where I was just going to focus on recording. And then over the summer, all I had lined up were some local shows at this burrito bar. And I was like, man, I got to book something other than that. I got to pad this. But then coronavirus hit, and I thought, okay, maybe I won't even be able to do those shows. And the first one that was scheduled had to get postponed, but the rest of them had yet to be played. And so as of this week, they're like, yeah, you'll still be able to play them. The patio just won't be half full. I know, it's like, that's kind of cool how that all works out. I just hope I never have to delay it again.
Oh, I completely understand. My band was like doing the happy dance when I messaged them, and I was like, hey, we got confirmed for an August 22nd full band show. Yeah!
We're back!
Yeah, and then it hit me. I was like, we're excited about the end of August. This is sad.
Yeah. Well, one thing that we had talked about in that Instagram live show that we did, you've worked with the Houston Livestock Show, and I cannot imagine what it was like for y'all whenever decisions were being made left and right on what stays open, what doesn't. I mean, how's it been to go from something as hectic as that to finally getting to see light at the end of the tunnel?
It's been crazy. I was looking back at just how long we've actually been in lockdown, which has literally been almost half the year in all reality, when you realize that. So I played the barbecue cook-off the day that the pipe burst in the lake in Houston.
Oh.
And yeah, so that was disaster one, and we were setting up, and I was asking, like, are we doing this? And you know what the response was? In true Texan Houstonian way, we're not here to drink water. We're fine.
I could see that.
And to that I said, touche.
Touche.
Y'all never drink water here anyways. So I made it through that. I did my 2 shows. And then there was this little buzz on the horizon. I read something on like a Facebook. It was a news thing, and it said, virus threatens China. Oh, wow. Hey, did you see that they have a virus in China? It's supposed to be like really deadly. And then, within like 10 days, it was here. And I was going to go see Cody Johnson. I had free admission to Cody Johnson.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and wait, there's more. I had free parking pass. I had the weekend planned.
Oh.
And I had also shows going on in the Houston area, and I watched it get closer and closer and closer, and they said, we have made the decision to cancel the rest of Rodeo 2020. And I could not believe. It was truly heartbreaking to see the kids that have worked their butts off for all year with their livestock. When you think about it, if you're not in the livestock industry, you're not in that, you just see, okay, a rodeo has been canceled. Well,
right.
That's sad. Big woo. This actually altered people's lives, because there were a lot of scholarships that were sitting and riding on how those kids performed, or how their livestock performed. And it's literally altered the course of their lives, because you and I well know, okay, if you had your scholarship waiting, you don't have one, you're not going to go to that school.
Right.
And so an entire people's lives have been completely changed by this. And I know there has been death and there's been loss, but economically, the domino effect has been incredibly vast.
Yeah.
And it hasn't, it's been an inconvenience to me, major inconvenience. I didn't get my life didn't just suddenly just go up in flames.
Right. There's the whole effect on that. And I know, like in College Station, they were trying to do kind of a backup livestock show at the last second, that's hard to do. And I've tried explaining to people, because I paid for the bulk of my first year of college with scholarships from 4-H and through Houston Livestock Show and all that. And I tried to explain to people, I was like, a lot goes into people's lives based on the stock show. It's not just, I can't go see, whoever it was at the rodeo that night. And a lot of people in Houston don't realize that. Because Houston's not exactly a country city.
The PRCA rodeo, the Houston rodeo counts for a lot of points for the year end. They got to ride the first half. The second half didn't get the points, which suddenly made the entire point system unfair.
Yeah.
And so the PRCA is suddenly scrambling, going, okay, so we've got to do this and do this and do this, and this will count for this. And the other thing that, like, I kind of wanted to cry, and for those that don't know me, people that do know me know that I am not a crier. My cousin worked his butt off to get to A&M. I went to his graduation 2 years ago, I guess. It's been 2 years. Worked his butt off. Those kids didn't get to walk. It was so important to my cousin to walk across that stage and get that diploma. He had worked blood, sweat, and tears. And there are so many kids that didn't get to walk. That they don't get that. Yeah, they'll probably come back and do it, but it's not that same thing at the end of the semester when you walk across. And it's just crazy how it has just affected so much.
I do hope that a lot of high schools will work something out where maybe their homecomings in the fall will feature like a halftime, you know, you got the king and queen and all that, and maybe also have some sort of, I mean, you couldn't rush that many people through, but maybe a pregame or postgame graduation where people can go back and just kind of have that moment. I mean, it's like you said, it's not the same, but it would be a cool gesture.
Absolutely.
Well, before I ask the big three questions here for the end, where can we direct people to your music, social media, sponsors, and all that?
All right. Genevieve Allen or Genevieve Allen Music will pop up everything on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. I fell for it and downloaded a TikTok. Don't look there. There's nothing.
Same.
That was called Quarantine Craziness. And I downloaded it and I scrolled through and I'm not going to dance and do that. I'm not going to do that.
If it makes you feel better, I've had multiple guests, and even myself included, who have said the exact same thing. It's like, we have one, but there's nothing on there.
But nothing happened. So if you want to go find my music is on iTunes, Amazon, CD Baby, Spotify it, stream it up, get me streams. I'll be more than tickled if you do that. But really, if you put in Genevieve Allen or Genevieve Allen Music, you'll find me everywhere.
Cool. Awesome. And I would highly encourage people to do that. And if you're not into music, but you like horses, definitely follow on social media because you will see a lot of that too.
Yeah, if you're a horse lover and you don't care about music, follow my Instagram. There's plenty of it. And I even played, I will have to try to get a video. I was sitting on my barrel horse and I had my guitar and I was trying to play a song and then it scared him.
Oh, no.
So, but that's coming. There's a video of me playing guitar on a horse coming.
Awesome. I will be looking for that. All right. So the big three, if you could collaborate with anyone out there, who would it be?
Garth Brooks.
Good call. It's funny. You know, it's funny you mentioned him earlier when you were talking about Nashville and people didn't know who Chris Ledoux was or how to say it. I interviewed Jared Johnson on the 3rd or 4th episode of this thing. And he was talking about how when we were getting into the 90s, Garth's sound was so new and in quote unquote, you know, industrial or whatever, that they wouldn't let you play him on Broadway. Like it was like taboo. And now if you play Garth, it's like classic country. It's insane how that's changed.
It is.
If you could headline any venue, where would you go?
Houston Rodeo.
Good call.
Reliant Stadium.
That would be awesome. I'm not a fan of their acoustics if you're in the crowd, but to highlight in there and just play one night would be amazing. Just
as a personal highlight, I want to play. Going for a show, it maybe not the best, but yes.
That would be awesome. And what is the funniest or craziest story you can tell from your music career so far?
Hands down, I've got this one.
Awesome.
All right. So I'm playing the Frog Fest in Bolivar, Texas. This was, I want to say it was 3 years ago. Okay, so I learned the hard way. I would say, hey, I would tell the funny story about how El Campo came to be. It was a joke, right? And I said, so if you got, and I smarted off into the mic. Never, ever, ever do that unless you are prepared for the consequences. And I said, if you got any funny prison stories, come and tell him.
Oh, no.
And I signed off. And so I'm off stage, and this woman approaches me. I'm not afraid of much. She was a little scary. She walked up and she said, I got a funny prison story. Okay. She goes, well, I was in prison. And I'm like, oh, okay. She goes, I was in for 5 years. And I'm thinking, good God, what did you do? What did you do? Did you burn your ex's house down or something? And
did you shoot through the door of the saloon owner?
Exactly. And I'm kind of like slowly edging back away from her, and she's edging forward to keep the same distance between us. And I've got a friend that's watching from the sidelines, and she's like howling because she's seeing this play out. And the lady goes, well, so this is my crazy prison story. I was going to the lunchroom on Thursdays because that's when they had Little Debbie cream cakes, and those are my favorite. And I'm just like, I'm speechless. And she goes, she gave the woman a name. She goes, but anyway, this little gal, her girlfriend cheated on her. And so she grabbed one of those plastic sporks and she stuck it straight in her throat, stabbed her in the throat, and we didn't get to have our little Debbie cream cakes. I'm still pissed off about that.
Oh
okay,
my gosh.
my friend was doing what you're doing. I'm standing there and I just said, well, goodness, that is crazy. And she goes, yeah, I'm still mad. I didn't get my little Debbie cream cake. Yeah, was she okay? Oh, I don't know. I think they patched her up. Okay.
Oh my
Stabbed in the
gosh.
throat with a spork.
There have been some funny ones told on this podcast, but I think we have a winner. That's amazing.
And the moral of that story is I never say, come and tell me your prison stories.
No, and don't take the last little Debbie, apparently.
No.
I like that story inception. It's like it's a story about a story. So we're getting a 2-in-1.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is incredible. I cannot think of a better way to top this episode off. So
all right.
I'm really glad you came on here today, because when I started this thing up, I sat down and I just kind of wrote out a list. I'm like, who are the first 10 to 20 people I need to get on this thing? And you were on that list. So I'm really glad we were able to schedule this.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And for everyone listening out there, definitely check out Genevieve's music. When the bars open up, whether it's 50% or 100%, go check out a show. Won't be disappointed. And if we can close this thing out with a song, which one should it be?
Ooh.
Grand finale.
Say what?
Grand finale.
Grand finale. Why don't you close it out with Damn This Rodeo?
Perfect. All right. Well, we will do that here.
He watched the rain come down, make puddles on the street when the radio came on, and Forward crossed his mind. He couldn't help but think he'd been gone too long this time. Cheyenne to Denver, Houston to San Antonio. Must have been one too many times he left her all alone. Well, damn this rodeo. He tried like hell to settle down, give up the crazy life, but it's in his blood. And every time he gives in, it screams his name like a demon calling him. Shreveport to Tulsa, Phoenix to Topeka. He loves her, but he needs it like a drug. Damn this rodeo. 'Cause he loves it, he hates it. Maybe tonight he'll make it, and maybe he won't. But it's the only life he's ever known. Loving her, leaving her, breaking her heart and losing another part of his soul to that damned old rodeo. He always sleeps alone when he's on the road. The memory of her touch festers in his soul. She's the only thing on earth that makes him whole. One more cup of coffee, another sleepless night. That demon is screaming in his mind. Damn this rodeo. 'Cause he loves it, he hates it. Maybe tonight he'll